chased validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I am your host, Xander, where we talk about this and that and everything in between. We changed up our lineup for the day, so you guys are going to be able to enjoy tonight's show, but we are going to have the makers of that song on the show next week, Saturday. And we also have a second song that's going to be playing after the show ends, so make sure that if you're here till the end that you can stay tuned and take a look at or take a listen to that. That song was called Higher Ground, made by Alan and Alanito's Music. They made exclusive songs for the podcast, This and That, and everything in between, where the album is called This and That and everything in between. So you can't miss it. The links to those songs are in the description down below every night. And actually, I think we have them now on all of the long and short form videos also. So if you ever want to go and find out where you can get the gander to those songs on the YouTube platform, you can always click one of the links in the description and it'll take you directly to the album. And also, if you want to purchase a song for a download so that you have it when you don't have access to internet or offline mode, you can also click the other link to each one of the songs and go and purchase the songs offline. And that'll give you the ability to rock these jams on a daily basis like I do, where you'll be able to enjoy the podcast on your leisure the same way I do. I got to tell you, it's some fun stuff. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Also note that we normally going to be starting at 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Pacific time. So I want you guys to make sure that you take the time to take a look at what we got going on the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about your settling for less, the potential for sacrificing settling over true compatibility. What's the difference between the two? And if in fact that is really the case. So as we get into today's topic, I want you guys to understand that we're live 7 nights a week. Tomorrow is going to be Sunday nights, members only, open to the public for now, where we're going to be doing some Q&As. We're going to be listening to some questions and comments from the fans. We're going to be reactions to those questions and comments where you guys can chime in. Remember, as you can see in the comment section, you guys can click that link and approve the mic, approve the camera. It'll bring you into our green room, where if I confirm that you're over the age of 18, bring you onto the show in real time. You'll be able to speak to me. We'd be able to see each other. You could turn your microphone off, your camera off, so that, if you feel like you want to be incognito, we can do that. Also, for everyone else that's going to remain in the comment section, feel free with the interactive podcast. This is a open-minded, open forum podcast where you guys can say what you want to say appropriately. So we got a couple people that like to come in and say things that are a little bit off the cuff, but we want to keep things primarily appropriate. If you say something that is reasonably appropriate, we will put your comments up onto the screen for now and respond to them directly. So by all means, but there is a little bit of lag. Don't worry, I understand. You heard it after I said it. Probably, I think there might be a 5 or 10 second lag. You heard it after I said it. You're responding to what you heard. And by the time I get what you heard, I'm already talking about something different. Don't worry. I will circle back to your question and your comment. So you will not be left in the dust until there are too many comments for me to read at one time. Then we'll have to change the game up a little bit. But until then, make sure that you guys follow along and put your input in wherever you see fit, as long as it's appropriate. Now, as you guys join me while I explore the perception of settling into a relationship and determining whether your partner is keeping you from finding true love or if your partner is not enough, I want you guys to really open your minds up to what I'm about to say, because I'm going to be giving you this information from a male perspective, which everything I have done on this podcast has come from a male's perspective, but it's from an unorthodox perspective to the magnitude where I live on uniformity to the fullest extent. So we're not going to come from a moral or ethical perspective. We're going to come from regardless of who's standing in that position, that this is what you should be experiencing and what you should be expecting and what you probably should be doing in order for you to achieve a level of success. So, ladies, follow along. Fellas, throw your 9 tails in there. Let's get started. Since we know that love is a beautiful, messy, complicated thing that we all want to experience in its fullest form, we still sometimes unintentionally allow ourselves to be with partners that can hold us back from feeling that deep connection, that spark, and that emotional intimacy that we crave. Now, the concept of settling can be divided into 2 categories, where you're settling for someone, and this is going to reflect, I'll be able to express a difference between the two, but this is going to be reflecting from, in the shortest term, reducing your standards for someone versus settling with someone where you are getting comfortable with that person. Now, in the broadest term, settling for someone often implies that one is accepting less than they deserve, typically due to fear of being alone or the belief that they cannot find someone better. And this particular concept leads a lot of individuals, especially women, who have that mindset that they are settling for less when they are not getting that hypergamy theorem in their relationship, because those are the individuals that only wish to date up, which means that no matter how successful she is, he has to be more successful than her in order for him to be considered by her on her level. Whereas somebody that is on her level might be in a friend zone, and somebody that is financially less than her or has less resources and less less connections would be deemed unworthy of her. Now, if you're not upgrading because of this relationship, some people definitely identify that as settling, because it is the understanding that when you get into a relationship, your life is supposed to get better. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that your living situation gets better. It just means that, you have less chaos in your life, you have more happiness, a little bit more fun, something to that effect. But the fact is that when those individuals acknowledge the fact that they don't have what they prefer, they believe that they deserve better, and they typically expect that the person that they're with is either holding them back or in some way, shape, or forms not good enough. They tend to break off those relationships without reasonable explanation and try to find somebody better. Or if they find themselves connecting with somebody that grass is greener on the other side perceives to be better, they end up damaging a really good relationship so that they can get involved with somebody that they perceive to be a more exclusive choice towards their personal desires, which is not necessarily what that person might need, but what that person just wants, which actually leads them into a position where those individuals will come together, and then true colors start coming out, and then you regret it, and then you go back to your relationship, which turns into a safety net of security. And that's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. I said that pretty quickly, but try to follow me, y'all. Don't listen too slow, because I can go off on this. Now, the mindset can lead to dissatisfaction, as partners may feel they are compromising too much on their needs or desires. But in contrast, settling with someone involves a mutual understanding and acceptance of each other's imperfections while recognizing the value in the relationship. And this perspective emphasizes collaborations and equality within the partnership, where both individuals work together to build a fulfilling life. Now, a healthier relationship requires a degree of acceptance regarding each partner's flaws. Dan Savage articulates this idea as the price of admission, suggesting that long term relationships necessitate a willingness to accept certain imperfections without expecting the partner to change. Now, this is going to be a fundamental expectation. Now, we have a lot of women that have said on a regular basis that they want to find somebody who accepts them for who they are, even though we recognize that very few women come natural. They put a lot of effort into their looks and their appearance, which actually, believe it or not, is a facade. But while they put all this effort into the way they want people to perceive them, once they get back to the house with the boyfriend or the husband and take all of that stuff off, who they really are is supposed to be what this man is supposed to accept. But the man actually fell for who they're pretending to be, which I've actually been having a debate with one of the fans in the comments over the past couple of days. And I have to respond to him again today after the show, because the misconception of one of the fans is that, oh, you can build a lifelong relationship off of a one night stand. Like hitting the lottery. Probably could, if you're able to develop a emotional connection, if you guys can hash out any discomforts between one another, if you guys, or if you guys just stick with it, regardless of any red flags that may come about, any pet peeves that may come about, you could turn a one night stand into a long-term relationship. But it's not common. It is typically extremely uncommon, and basing a relationship fundamentally off of a physical attraction is not necessarily going to be a long-term scenario. And when we say not basing a relationship off of specifically physical attraction, what we're saying is that you can't just have a sexual relationship turn into a 50-year-long marriage, because if you don't like the other person's attitude, the sex isn't going to be good enough. If that person is not contributing enough in a relationship, the sex is not going to be good enough. So if sex is all that is there, the lust of the scenario fades within 30 to 90 days. And once you get used to the situation, there's got to be something more in this relationship than sex. Now, yeah, the relationship can start from sex. The sex can be great. The sex could last you 6 months to a year. And in that 6 months to a year, you can grow content with the person. And because of fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear of failure, you could stick with a toxic relationship because the sex is there. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that all relationships end up that way, but I can definitely say that that does necessarily happen, but it's not something that's going to be what is promoted to be a healthy relationship, a long lasting relationship. And a lot of times, incompatible people are together because of the physical contact that they have with each other. And then once that physical contact stops, because she has a headache, she's tired, her back aches, her stomach hurts, she's sleepy, eventually you start having affairs when that physical intimacy stops because he's working three jobs and he's almost never available. That uh, uh, leads to affairs on the job. It leads to affairs with the personal trainers. It leads to affairs all over the place because there isn't anything there other than the physical attraction. So, man, I should have wrote all this stuff down so that I could put it in that response. But I'm gonna sub you know subtitle that and stick something else in there. Either way it goes, we're talking about the fact that you're not necessarily settling for less in that particular aspect, but if you're choosing a person based on specifically physical desire, not what you need emotionally, not what you need in your life in addition to the emotional, because you need a partner, whether she needs a partner in him or he needs a partner in her. You need a partner when you're coming together, and that partner is supposed to be aiding you and your life and your relationship to a more successful scenario. And if that partner is not contributing towards that success, you're putting all this work in by yourself to make the relationship successful. It's a very stressful relationship, and we do have to understand that more often than not, we have women that get into a relationship and they go on autopilot where they do their own thing, but they want to be spoiled by their man, but they're not spoiling their man at the same time. And then the lack of reciprocation, he has to put in all of this effort to make her happy. And then he's supposed to be happy specifically because she's happy, not because she's putting in any effort to make him happy. And a lot of the times, these same women still believe that sleeping with the man is going to make him happy, and that's all she really has to do to have the life of a princess, is just sleep with the king. And that doesn't really work out, because the concubines can sleep with the king and still not have the life of a princess, which is one of the comments that I had with I said this on the show yesterday and the day before, and I think I put it in at least one of the three comments that we've had over the past week, where I let them know, like, hey, you don't have to be the person that's getting all the royalties from the man in order to be the person that's sleeping with the man. So a man can sleep with you and not do nothing for you, and then the person that's not sleeping with him can get all of his assets. So the fact is that the sex is not supposed to be a trade-off for his stuff. It's supposed to be an expression of emotional connection between the two parties, in addition to procreation. So that's a whole nother topic. But, like I say, on this and that, we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Now, while we recognize this acceptance, that does not equate to complacency. Rather, it reflects a realistic approach to relationships where both partners acknowledge their differences and work towards a mutual growth. You have to have a understanding. Like, take, for example, have you ever felt like you are stuck in a relationship that's not allowing you to grow, to flourish, or to be your best self? Like, maybe your partner is unintentionally suffocating you emotionally, and it's preventing you from being able to express yourself, or perhaps they're holding you back from pursuing your passions and dreams. And if you're experiencing something like that, you're not alone. This happens a lot because you have long distance relationships where people have tried to chase their dreams, but their company wants them to go out of state or out of the country even, and you have to choose between maintaining your relationship or leaving the country or leaving the state in order to pursue your career. Your partner is anchored to the city and state that you're in, and your career is leaving that city or state, and you have to choose between your relationship or your career. Ladies have to do it just like men have to do it. You have to make that choice to either stay anchored with your partner or separate from your partner and chase your career. In other countries, the man lives his own life and the woman lives her own life. They might be married, but they only see each other twice a year. Some families do that. The kids are at the house by themselves, and mom and dad is traveling the world, living their individual lives where they can claim in conversation that they're married with children, but they're never home to see their kids and they're never home to see their husbands. The men can claim that they're married with children and they never are at home with their wife and they never get to see their kids, but they do show up periodically to be able to coach the kids on how to be more responsible, but they're not being responsible themselves because they basically abandoned their family for a really good career. A lot of parents will say that their absence in the child's life is for the sake of the child because they were investing in the child's future by putting all this effort into their work. But truth be told, you were just chasing your dream and you had a child, and now that you've gotten a child, you take all the extra money and pay somebody else to take care of the child for you. You come back and play with the child when it's convenient, like petting a dog when you get back home from work, but then you disappear and you go back to work because work is what you want to do. That's the truth. Because if you wanted to be a father, if you wanted to be a mother, you'd be at home with your kids more often than not. And you wouldn't be traveling the world without taking your kids with you. Likewise, if you are in a relationship that doesn't have any children in it and you really wanted that relationship, you would not relocate to a career path that doesn't have your partner coming with you. Likewise, if you're also in that relationship and your partner is relocating, you would not be in a relationship when your partner is going to relocate and you're not going to relocate with them. Now, not everybody's job can relocate. You might have the kind of job where this is all you know how to do and you got a good job here. You've been doing this job for 10 years. Now you've been in this. How do you balance a middle class job? How you doing, Shelly? Shelly was here yesterday. How you doing? How do you balance a middle class job? Well, let's start off with how do you balance a low class job? How do you balance a blue collar job that's asking for 55 to 60 hours a week? You're working 10-hour days, 5 to 6 days a week. How do you balance that? Well, first thing you have to understand is that you still have to prioritize telling your job at some point no, because you are legally required to work 40 hours a week and then stop. Now, you choose to work overtime. If you're in a management position, a middle management position, then you have an obligation to work about 55 hours a week. If you get a salary job, they might even tack on an extra 5 hours a week and then give you a really good salary that's putting you at around $25 an hour if you're on the East Coast and $45 an hour if you're on the West Coast. But you got to also think about the fact that if you're in that middle class job, and or that middle management job, that after that 55 to 60 hours that you are contracted in to get the income that you're trying to get, you're supposed to be able to say, I'm not coming to work anymore because the rest of that time I want to spend at home with my family. If you're doing 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, you still got 1 day off a week where you get to spend time with your family. Now, you should be able to correlate that with your family, where your girlfriend or your wife's schedule is going to be able to mesh up with your day off at least twice a month, where you have an entire day to spend with her. Likewise, um, even if you're working 10 hours a day and you're sleeping 8, that's 18 hours a day, which means you still have 6 hours a day of awake time that if you schedule that correctly, you can spend every morning or every afternoon whenever your time is off with your partner. So being able to prioritize your family after you have met the expectations of your job title is what you're supposed to do. Now, when you start talking about those middle class jobs, because you have to remember what is a middle class job, because working class is making almost 79,000 a year right now. So a middle class job would be making 150 to $200,000 a year. Because of inflation. So if you're looking at a middle class job, you're looking at somebody that's probably married to the company. How do you manage that? You're going to have to do the same thing. You're going to have to decide, do you want to move up in the company and become partner? Do you want to move up in the company and be on a board? Do you want to move up in the company and be a top surgeon? Do you want to move up in the company and be the top anesthesiologist? Do you want to specialize in your field? Do you want to be in a Fortune 500 company? Do you want to expand your business to be the top performing business in the region, or do you want to make just enough money for you to survive so that your family is taken care of? That's the kind of questions that you have to ask and answer for yourself, and that's also the type of questions that you got to communicate with your partner. So how are you going to find balance between your work and your personal life? Well, the first thing you have to do is set a standard of expectations that you're going to need to meet for yourself. Do you really want to have a family, or do you want to just have somebody to come back to after you've done the career that you want? There's a lot of ladies that say that they want to have a career where the man supports her career choice and supports her climbing the corporate ladder because that's her dream and that's her passion, and more power to you. But you have to ask yourself, as the wife of a man who's going to support your career, are you going to prioritize your family to say, I can't be here this much, I need to go home. I ain't seen my husband in a few days, I need to go home. I haven't spent the weekend with my husband in a few weeks, I need to go home. I need extra time off so that I can spend time with my partner. Because if you're not saying that, then you're really abandoning your relationship. Same thing if a man was doing that. If a man is going to be working 7 days a week and put in extra hours every day, even if he doesn't need that, where he's at work 7 days a week and he's never at home, he's abandoning his relationship. So how do you find balance? Which one is more important to you? If you're broke and you need money, you're probably going to prioritize a job. If there's enough money to go around between you and your partner, you're probably not going to have the need to go to work that often. But you also have to remember that you don't want to lose the drive and motivation that you had to be successful, where you're becoming content in your relationship, where you're not actually applying yourself to more success. But you also don't want to start swimming in debt because you're working less. There's a lot of prioritization that needs to happen here. And while there is a lot of prioritization that needs to happen here, there is a lot of understanding where if you communicate your financial needs versus your goals in life and the expectations of the success of the relationship, and you guys revisit this on a monthly basis where you guys come to terms with being able to do a little bit of an intervention and make sure that you guys are still meeting each other's expectations, meeting the expectations of the relationship, navigating and re-navigating as things change, then you're able to make sure that you are not losing that balance once you find it. But you also have to understand that you guys got to have that talk in the very beginning, that if we become an item, are you willing to relocate? Am I willing to relocate? And if the answer is yes, then that means every job opportunity that crosses my plate, I can accept that, as long as I talk to you about it in advance and be like, look, they're going to offer me this thing. I'm going to have to relocate in order to accept this. Are you okay with that? You told me that you would relocate if something positive happened that required me to relocate with my career. So are you still okay with that? They should be able to be okay with that because you brought it to them in advance, instead of accepting a job position and coming back and telling them, oh, I accepted a job position in Chicago when you live in Georgia. Like, you got to be real. Now, likewise, if you understand that you're dating a person that says, no, I like my hometown, I don't ever want to leave, you're getting into a relationship with somebody that's anchored to where they are. If you realize that if you move up in your company and your company has a branch in Prague, if your company has a branch in Switzerland, if your company has a branch in California, and again, you have a house in Florida, you're looking at, if you take this job, you are going to have to separate from your partner. Which, if you're not already married, your relationship is probably going to be over anyway. But if you are married, your relationship is going to be strained because you are going to be on the West Coast while they're on the East Coast. So how do you prefer to find balance in your work-life balance? Do you personally, Shelly, prefer to spend time with your partner, or do you prefer to spend time at work? And then if you prefer to spend more time at work, is that because you are a workaholic? You really like to do your job. You're really good at your job and you like the praise that you're getting from your job? Or are you avoiding your partner because your partner's getting on your damn nerves at the house because they don't appreciate, respect, and validate you? Which was the other thing that we were going to be talking about on today's show. So while you key in a few of those answers, you got to understand that there are some common signs that can indicate if your partner is hindering your emotional growth or your happiness and love. And one of the most significant signs is when your partner constantly criticizes or puts you down, making you feel like you're not good enough. And this can lead to feelings of inadequacy and low self-esteem and a lack of confidence. And another sign is when your partner becomes overly controlling or jealous of you and your success, not necessarily trying to make sure that they're keeping you safe. Because I know a lot of women are saying, oh, well, a man is controlling and jealous when a man is telling you how to dress and a man is telling you to not affiliate yourself with the kind of predatory behavior that some men do portray. And since we understand how men can become monsters if they're not already monsters, we want to protect you from that. That type of guidance is protecting you. It's not controlling you, but women get that confused. So I just want to say, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the ones that don't allow you to have friends, that don't allow you to talk to your family, the ones that don't allow you to socialize in public. And as a result, uh, uh, like you would get in trouble with your partner if you help a woman get some stuff off of the shelf because your girl doesn't want you to talk to any other females with a pulse. So that restricting your freedom and autonomy is something that can lead to the feelings of resentment and frustration. So if you're experiencing something like that, that's one of those issues that we say needs to be addressed. Now, Shelly says that my partner is supportive 95% of the time. So the other 5% of the time, what's going on? What's going on? Is your what? Because like I would assume that it's a all or something. You know what I'm saying? Should I be pissed off about the 5% or be grateful for the 95? Well, that depends on why that 5% is there. Is that 5% there because there are sometimes that she just does not agree with what you're doing? Or is that 5% there because she doesn't value your perspectives the way you were talking to me yesterday about how you put in so much effort into the things that make her happy, but she does not put in effort into the things that make you happy? And then if she does show up for the things that make you happy, she half-asses it as if she's not even interested in the things that you're interested in. Yeah, I remember you from yesterday. I'm not gonna. I try my best not to forget too many people in my life. So, when you tell me something, yeah, we categorize that. So, I mean, when you say should you be happy about or mad about that 5% or be grateful for the 95%, it depends. Because if the 5% is just that those times when she doesn't agree with what you got going on, and they have the ability to be supportive and still not agree with you, you know because if what you're doing is against their better judgment, if what you're doing is something that may lead you to failure, if what you're doing is illogical or irrational, they can be supportive by telling you that they don't agree with you. Yo, what's up, Ruderus? How you doing, buddy? So they could be supportive of not agreeing with you. And while they're not agreeing with you, they can be the safety net. So you're about to go do something stupid like invest in Bitcoin on the decline, buy you a Hellcat, buy you a jet ski, go try to free fall out of a helicopter or something. You could be going to do something that's not in your best interest. And some of the things outside of the free falling from the helicopter, she could be trying to do things to proactively circumvent your failure. Like, for example, you take a decent quantity of change and go and invest it in something that's not going to be hold on a second, guys. He says, I worked hard, dude. This time got first. All right. Now parents treat me good. I told you that they were going to do that. You just got to show them that you're doing the best that you can at being you. They're going to apparently at some point they're going to recognize your efforts and they're going to start giving you that recognition. And a lot of the times when it comes to being a leader, you have to lead the team by continuing to attempt to succeed through failure and never giving up no matter how much your team looks down on you for it. And once you start succeeding, your team is going to see all the effort that you put into that, and then they're going to start following your lead because you're not a quitter. Because people fail in life, they fail in their relationships, and as you continue to strive, you will start succeeding. And once other people start seeing the fruits of your efforts, that's when they're going to start jumping on a bandwagon of your success. Because the one thing that people like more than a prodigy is an underdog. So if you were down and you were down for a while and now you're starting to shine, they're going to be more on your team than somebody who started at the top and just stayed there. So love that. He says, but I'm kind of sad. Why? Why after being first? Okay, so here's the thing. Every parent wants their kid to be successful. I'm gonna get back to you, Shelly. Every person wants to be everybody wants their kid to be successful. And because everybody wants their kid to be successful, the fact is, um, when their kids are failing a lot, the parents are disappointed in themselves because they feel like they failed to teach their children what their children needed in order for them children to be successful. But then the misdirected rage, the parents take that out on the children. So they're not disappointed in you. They're disappointed in themselves, but they're projecting that onto you because they wanted you to be successful. They want you to have a better lifestyle than what they had. They want you to have more opportunities than they had. And then no matter what they do, you're still failing. They're going to blame themselves, but they're going to probably treat you badly because you're not succeeding. It's not intentional. It's not intentional. And then some parents believe that pushing you harder to be successful will make you successful when they're not aiding you in being successful by showing you another way. They just tell you to be successful and then talk down to you because you're not. That's negative reinforcement, which doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. Sometimes they'll call you a failure and you will be successful to prove to them that you're not a failure. But sometimes they'll call you failure, and then after they call you failure enough times, you're jumping off of a building. Negative reinforcement doesn't always work. But the fact is that they were always rooting for you. They just had a very strange way of doing it. And now that you are showing the results of your efforts, they are extra proud because they were completely lost and did not know how to help you, but they wanted you to succeed. And now that you're succeeding, they are proud to know that you will dig yourself out of a hole because they couldn't dig you out themselves. So that shows them that you are able to succeed even if they're not there to help you, which actually is going to make them more proud of you than what they would have been if they carried you to your success, because then you would have only been as successful as your parents' investment. Now you are successful because of your own personal efforts. And that's one step away from being a self-made man. Is that so true? And the way I got treated, I had to quit chess, bro. Sometimes you got to put a pause on stuff. You don't necessarily have to retire out of chess. You might have to turn chess into a hobby until you get stable. And then you're going to have to turn back around and get back into chess after things settle down, because you got school that you're dealing with. You're going to have exams. You're going to have finals. You got midterms, so you might have to, after you come to understand some of the tougher subjects. I know I got a lot of my students that they hurt because it's hurdles. It's like it's stairs. The levels of difficulty, you think that it's a smooth sailing because you're skyrocketing in your classes, and then all of a sudden you plateau, you hit this level and you just can't get over this hurdle for a while. And then once somebody explains it to you in a different way, where you get that aha moment, that light bulb pops into your head, and then all of a sudden you start back on that incline. That's something that happens to everybody. And once you get back on that incline, you start balancing things out. I tell all of my students, make sure that you do not book too many hard things. You want to have 1 or 2 hard things, 2 or 3 easy things. That way you put a lot of attention onto the hard stuff, but you're still able to skate through the easy stuff every semester, and you're able to maintain a 3.5 GPA. That's what you need to aim for, 3.5. You're not aiming for a 4.0. You aim for a 4.0. You will really be hurting yourself. But it's always good to try to aim above the rest so that when you fail higher than everyone else. But if you aim within a reasonable area of achievement, even in these relationship topics, if you aim for a reasonable level of achievement, something that is attainable for you, then you don't have to recognize failure when you're not trying to overachieve for unrealistic expectations. He says, yeah, dude. And he says, now they're so proud, they're calling all the relatives to talk about me, but no one spends more time with me. I mean, I was just telling you how the family, they come through, they show up periodically, and then after they show up, they give you your kudos, and then they go off and they do their own thing because everybody's got their own life. You are not the source of their lifestyle. Their lifestyle, that you were their priority when you were defenseless, but now that you are self-sufficient, you are able to do your own thing and live your own life, which means that they can go and live theirs. So you have to remember that they're going to show up like best friends, and they're going to come in and be supportive like best friends, but then they're going to disappear like friends with jobs and responsibilities. And they might circle back when they remember they got a kid, but every now and again, when they got a lot of work to do with their jobs, they got work to do in their relationships, they just want to take a day off and not have to deal with anybody's stress, not even yours. Those are going to be the days where you don't have parents anymore. And they still love you. They just forget that they got to come back and show it from time to time. You get that experience in relationships as adults, that your partner still loves you, but sometimes they forget to express it from time to time. So you got to figure out how to work your way back around to figure that part out. So Shelly, you were telling me that you got 95% of support and the other 5% is questionable. And I asked you, why was that 5% there? Because as I explained to you about how that 5% happens where they don't agree with what you're doing, but they're still supportive. And I was giving you some examples before Ruderus was telling us how awesome things are. Oh, anytime, brother, feel free to stay through the show, swing back by around. I'm here 7 days a week. We're starting off at 10 Central, 11 Eastern, 7 Pacific now. But we still running that hour to 2 hours to 3 hours sometimes. So, anytime you want to swing by, if you hit that notification button, it'll tell you as soon as we go live. So, because we're here 7 days a week, and I love seeing you guys, so I really appreciate you guys dropping back in whenever you guys drop back in. Oh, and I got you. You're at like the top of the list somewhere. Where are you on this list? Number 3. Yep. Number 2, actually. You're number 2, right after Max Poser, right before Reese Martinez. So I got you guys. I got you. I don't forget about you. I don't forget about you. But I want to touch base with Shelly's statement, because Shelly was saying that, he got a partner that's 95% supportive. But I'm trying to get you to understand, when I was talking about that 95% supportive, is when your partner should be 100% supportive, even if they're not 100% agreeing with you. That's the part that I was about to get at. Your words are really supportive and motivating. Thank you very much. I am always going to be supportive. I don't have to agree with the things that people say in order for me to support their position. I can completely disagree with what you have to say and still promote what you just said on the podcast, because at the end of the day, your opinion is valuable. But I also believe that if I disagree with you, I should be able to voice the fact that I disagree with you and why. I'm not going to devalue you as a person to say that I disagree with you, but I'm also at the same time going to try to make it make sense as to why I disagree with what you said if I disagree with that. So Shelly is saying that the 5% is because I become super obsessive with work till I'm doing almost 17 hours a day. Says I need to take a break from work. Bro, that is actually being supportive. So you actually have 100% supportive. You just have 5% of take time off. Look, I do 18 hours a day. Sometimes I do 20 by accident. You're welcome, Ruderus. You're welcome. But like I said, I do 18 hours a day. Sometimes 20 by accident. Sometimes I only get 2 to 4 hours of sleep out of 48 hours. I spend more hours at work than what I spend doing anything else. But when I do remember that I got to go spend time with family, I'll take 4 to 6 hours out of a day and spend some time with my family. I'll call family. I'll start the podcast late because I was doing something with some family, talking to them, hanging out on the phone with them, spending some time with them. And that caused me to get to the podcast late, because once I start spending time with the family, I'm not going to say, oh, I got to go. I got to do my podcast. No, I'm going to give you the time that you came here for. And then after that, I'm going to do my podcast. But the thing is that even my family members tell me that, I shouldn't work myself too hard, because if I burn out, I'm not going to be able to get back up and do it anymore. That they tell me not to overwork myself, not to allow myself to stay stressed out on a regular basis, even though I do, because that's how people care. So it's not that she's supportive 5% of the time. She's supportive 100% of the time, but she supports you by telling you to take a break 5% of the time. She's supportive of your recovery phase by telling you that you're doing too much and you need to stop 5% of the time. She's supporting your ability to your lack of ability for self-preservation because you're burning the candle at both ends, which means that the candle will burn out faster. And she's telling you to recharge by stopping 5% of the time. That's different from one that tells you that you're worthless and you'll never be successful and you should just jump off of the building at your job. That 5% of non-supportiveness is the 5% that I said that's not okay. So when I asked you before, like, is she like positively like supporting your situation but just not agreeing with your decision, or is she negatively heckling your scenario and not actually being supportive? Because not being supportive is telling you that your train collection is stupid. Not being supportive is, telling you that you're childish because you still have the collectible trading cards from when you were a kid that are worth like $1,000 a card now. Not being supportive is, telling you that you are ridiculous for having Bitcoin stock in and of itself. That's not being supportive. But telling you, hey, you're working too much, you should take some time off from work, I think that's a little bit more supportive. It's just not what you would want to hear because you work more than you don't. If we've been doing it all of our lives, especially if we started working long before the child labor law set in and said that you weren't allowed to work before a certain age, all you know how to do is work. That's your identity. And when somebody asks you not to do that, you feel weird about that because they're asking you to rest and you don't know what rest feels like. That's why you got a woman like that, so that she could tell you that you're doing too much. And if she's going to bring up the other side to make sure that when you do stop, that things don't fall apart, she's telling you that you are entitled to a short vacation, whether that's a 2-day in a row stop of work, or if it's just like a half a day of sleep. Like, she's telling you that you need it and you need to take that because it's in your best interest for your physical health and your mental health to listen to your partner and take a break. Shelly says, but like the extra time I'm working is working harder for a promotion. If I get a promotion, did I get more money and more? You don't get more time, bro. You're saying that more time I could spend with her. That's not going to be true. Sometimes I feel like she can't see the future. Well, here's a problem that you're going to have to understand. That promotion is not going to come with more free time. That promotion is going to come with more responsibility. More responsibility is going to take away more time. If you're a base level employee, you have a maximum of 40 hours a week because a lot of times they put a cap on overtime. When you get promoted into a management position, you're going to have a minimum 55 hours a week, which is going to sometimes require you to put in an extra 10 to 20 hours on top of that and cut hours from the hourly employees because you're salary. So they're not going to have to pay you extra money. So they'll save money on working you more and working the hour employees less. And that might give you a bonus, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have more time to spend at home. Another thing is that while working for that promotion, you do have to remember that you got a relationship that you're trying to manifest into a long-term engagement so that when you're reaping the rewards from that promotion, that you still have a relationship to celebrate with. In addition to that, if you're not taking the extra capital from the extra hours that you're working and investing it somewhere so that you have extra capital that can come in so that when you decide to work left, that you still have more money coming in to offset the amount of time that you're not working, then you're going to always need to work more so that you can continue to make that quantity of money. If every time you get a raise, you increase your standard of living, by increasing your standard of living, you're increasing your overhead. And by continuously increasing your overhead, you're always living from check to check. We just lived through the pandemic. If you miss 3 paychecks, that's 6 weeks, and now you're homeless. At the end of the day, if you can't live for 6 months without a job, then you are broke, which means that you need to start investing money somewhere so that you got more money somewhere to last you for 12 months of unemployment. Think about this. You get into a car crash, you're out of a job for 6 months. Think about this. If you break a leg, you're out of a job for 18 months. If you don't have enough money sitting in a bank to pay for your standard of living for 18 months, you're broke, which means that instead of you just focusing on getting this promotion because you're talking about the bigger picture, why don't you try to take a little extra money off of the top of each one of your paychecks and put it somewhere so that you can quit your job for 6 months to a year? Because a lot of people build up 2 to 4 weeks of vacation pay, 2 to 4 weeks of sick days, 2 to 4 weeks of PTO time, put it all together, get 9 months off paid leave, and then when you go back to work, they got to factor you back into the equation because you still got a job, but they had to replace you productivity wise. When you do go back to work, you're going to start part-time, then you're going to work your way back into full-time. It's not like they're going to hold your position for you, where as soon as you decide to come back to work, you got a full 40-hour-a-week schedule. That only happens when you're working on a job with a high turnover ratio. And jobs with high turnover ratios don't give you 6 months off. They don't. They give you 6 weeks off, and it's unpaid leave. So at the end of the day, you got to remember that your relationship is important if you want it. And you have to find that work-life balance, which means that while you're chasing this promotion, you still have to make sure that you take time off from work so that you can spend time with your loved ones. If you got a wife, if you got kids, you got to make sure that you stop working and go home. That way your family can see you. That way they can spend time with you. You don't want to only be at the house when you're sleeping in your wife's lap because you can't make it to the bed to go to bed. You don't want to only make it home when you're falling asleep in a bathtub because you can't make it to the bed. You want to make sure that you're able to be awake at the house with your family, because if you only go to work and go to sleep and then go back to work, you're still not with your family. So how well is your relationship with this promotion if you're never home to enjoy the relationship? Doctors, surgeons, they're 18 hours a day, sometimes 48 hours, sometimes 72-hour shifts. And then they're on call when they're not at work. So you've been gone for 4 days. Then you come home. You're only at home for 4 hours. Now there's an emergency surgery. You got to take back off and do a 10-hour surgery. That was your day off. And after that 10-hour surgery, now you're going to be stuck on a 4-day rotation. You got those surgeons that do the Doctors Without Borders situation where they're gone for 6 months. Then when they come back, they're on call. They got to go back out again. Somebody then choppered in and said, oh, you got to go. You're on the middle of a date. First time you've gotten a chance to see your loved one. And now, oh, duty calls. You're in the military. You're gone for 5 years. You come back and now all of a sudden your commanding officer is calling you, telling you got to fly back out. You haven't even taken your shoes off. You can't tell me that these types of career choices are good for long-term relationships. They're not. These are the type of career choices that are made for people who are single. That's why these types of career choices lead to affairs on the job, because you spend more time with your coworkers, you spend more time with your boss, you spend more time with your subordinates than what you spend that time with your loved ones. That's where these affairs come from. So instead of having a better work relationship with the people on your job than what you have with your romantic partner at the house, you want to prioritize your romantic partner at the house. You want to get that promotion, but you also want to be able to say, hey, after such and such quantity of time per week, I'm taking my behind home. You know, I got family at the house that I need to see. I need to check in. Your relationship is your second job, because otherwise, what the fuck are you working for? Like, what as men are we killing ourselves for to be such highly successful men when most of us can live on less than $20,000 a year and we spend the rest of our money on the satisfaction of other people in our lives? Why are we trying to become millionaires when we only need 20 grand a year to live and be content with that? And then when you think about the fact that, just like in the military, just like the cast of Star Trek, you can literally work yourself to death, never spend a dollar, and only have to have enough income to come in to make sure that you got clean clothes, food in your stomach, and a roof over your head when you're not on the job. So if all of that is covered by the job, you don't even need a paycheck. So why are we working so hard to be rich? We are working so hard for the other people in our lives. And since we're working that hard for the other people in our lives, at the end of the day, we have to prioritize them too. Because if you're making 8 figures a year, but you can't spend it, like, what are you really doing? Like, it's a waste of effort. We're not trying to be millionaires so that we can say that we got $1 million. We're trying to be millionaires so that we don't suffer. Our wives and our husbands don't suffer. Our children don't suffer. Hopefully we can leave generational wealth where our children can leave money for our grandchildren so that they don't suffer. That's what we're killing ourselves for. That's the whole reason why men are designed to protect and provide. We're protecting our families from struggle. We're protecting our families from strife. We're protecting our families from danger, but we're providing them with a better standard of living to the best of our ability. That's what we work so hard for. So if we're not enjoying that with them, then we're failing, even if we are financially successful, because our family still misses us. You cannot satisfy the needs of your family and be the absent person in the family. The children need the dad, the wife needs the husband. The children need the mom, the husband needs the wife. So you can't be absent in a relationship, throw money at the relationship and say, oh, I'm in a great relationship because my partner can buy whatever he or she wants. That's not a relationship. That's a roommate scenario. That's a sugar daddy, sugar mama situation where you show up, you get your little good, and then you go back to work. You leave them with a blank check and they just spend all the money until you come back. That's what that is. That's not what we're working for. Shelly says, thank you. How would you communicate to your wife that there's certain times in your job that there are like 1 to 2 weeks of the year you need to work extra hard? Well, Shelly, they got blackout dates on low grade jobs where you're just not gonna get off unless you're lucky. Matter of fact, on low grade jobs, there are situations where you can request that day off 9 months ago, have it written in the book, signed and dated by the boss, and then still have your name on the schedule for that day, because nobody's allowed to take that day off. God forbid they granted you that day off, but they're understaffed. You still got to show up for work. You have those jobs where if you don't show up for work, they're not going to fire you, but they're going to cut your hours because you wasn't there for them when they wanted you there. So now when you need money, they're not going to be there for you. So you have to go to work. Sometimes you just have to go. And in exchange for that, when you have to go to work, you go and you put that 1 to 2 weeks out of the year into your job when you have to do it, but then you have to put that 1 to 2 weeks off the job into your relationship to make up for your absence. Because there's 52 weeks out of the year, and you can't tell me that you're going to give all 52 of them to the job, because the job will not close if you don't show up for work. Amazon didn't close when the workers went on strike. The job was still open. Stuff just got done late. Yep. Matter of fact, during that boycott in Alabama, there was 2 employees that was still working while the rest of the people were on strike. So the business is still going to happen. It's just going to move less efficiently because you're not there, especially if you're the reason why all the gears are greased. So if you don't show up, things might be a little rusty, but it's still going to happen. The company is still going to make money even if you're not there, but your relationship will not be there if you're not there. So you have to remember that no matter how much time that you got to put into your job, you got to put in just as much, if not more time, into your relationship after the fact. So if your boss is going to take 2 specific weeks out of your year, right after that, you need to take 2 specific weeks out for your relationship, because your relationship is just as important as your job. Because one thing that is not going to happen is your job is not going to find you another relationship, but your relationship will find you another job. Your relationship will cover your job. So you got to remember, which one is more important, the relationship or the job? It says, my wife has been on my butt to use my PTO. Should I use it or just continue to cash out? That depends on how much money you need. PTO is to cover you when you have emergencies. If you don't have emergencies, but you understand that your PTO is use it or lose it after a certain period of time, you need to cash in that PTO to make sure that you don't top out and then lose out on that PTO. So you got to keep cashing it out. But at the end of the day, if you're, instead of just cashing out the PTO, since you do have those 2 weeks out of the year that you need to spend on the job mandatorily, you need to be able to cash in that PTO and say, well, if the job is going to mandatorily say that I got to be there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm going to take off Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and go spend time with my girl. You know, and look, you don't have to do it all at the same time. Your job is going to give you maybe sometimes some jobs give you 2 days off in a row. Sometimes they give you like a Wednesday and a Sunday. But if they give you a Wednesday and a Sunday and you want to take 2 days off in a row, you can take off Wednesday and Thursday or Tuesday and Wednesday, where you request that PTO day off in advance. And then you have Tuesday and Wednesday off. You can also double down and say, well, since I got a Wednesday and a Sunday off, I'm gonna take a Tuesday and a Monday off, and now I got a 4-day week. And you can do that once a month and still keep your 40-hour schedule, because you got to use your PTO. Instead of cashing it out and getting the extra check, if you need that extra money, you want to cash out and get the extra check. But instead of cashing it out and getting that extra check, what you could be doing is you could be taking extra days off out of the month. 1 week out of the month, you take off 2 extra days in the same paycheck. That way you can spend more time with your girl. Specifically, you want to take off on the days that you know that she is off. That way y'all are both home together that entire day. Even if y'all don't do nothing but lay on the couch, watch Netflix and watch this and that, talk about this, that, and everything in between. If that's the only 2 things that you do on your day off, that's what you do. But that's how you make up for the time that you're missing in action, because you got to go to work. Because I'm not saying don't work. I work all the time. But let a family member tell me that they want my time. I guarantee you that'll be the day that we don't air. If my family ever told me that during the time that I had to be on this podcast that they needed me for something, that would be the day that I don't air on time. I might air 8 hours late. I told you I was going to air the show before the sunrise. I was supposed to air the show at 10 o'clock. I might air the show at 4 a.m. because I had to do something with them and then come back and air the show. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell my family, oh, I can't do it because I got a podcast to run. That's not what happens. I'm not going to tell my loved ones I'm not going to spend any time with you ever because I got students to teach in Asia. But at the same time, I do got to put my time and my effort into making my money on a regular basis. So I keep my checks flowing. But I also make sure that when I get extra time, I take that time off. Like over these holidays, I had a lot of my students that took time off because they were spending time with their family. It gave me 4 different days where I had 18 hours of nothing to do, and I'm already paid for the month. So you know what I did? I slept. I spent some time with family. I was talking with aunts and uncles and sisters and brothers that I ain't talked to in a long time. I was spending time with my kid that I didn't get a chance to spend time with in a long time. And I was able to catch up on things. Instead of me trying to rebook my schedule, I said, well, shoot, I'm free. I'm free tonight. I'm free tonight. I checked my schedule and I was like, snap. I don't really have nothing to do until the 1st, but I got a few people that I gotta work in overnight. I get to work those people in and rest. This is my vacation time because they decided not to book me. Now, when I'm overbooked for the rest of the month of January, I can say I took a week off in December without actually having to ask for it. Because instead of pressing the issue and continuously trying to push more money down my pockets, I said, well, look, let me take some time and spend more time with my family since I got that time. You know, and if I can't do nothing but sit there and have a short conversation with a family member, if I can't play games with them or something, I'm going to give them the time that they need, because the relationships is what the memories in your life with the people that you love and care about is what life is for. That's what we're living our lives for, is to build memories. We're not living our lives to work for somebody else and make them rich, because guess what? The people who own the company, they're living life. They're building memories. They can tell you stories about yacht trips around the world. They can tell you stories about enjoying time in different countries and adventures that they've been on, that we don't have those memories. We could tell you about that last time that somebody brought a birthday cake to the job. That's all we could talk about. The time that so-and-so got caught in the cooler with their coworker. The time that we caught so-and-so on a desk in their office, because all we do is live at work. All of our memories are certain things that happen to other people on a job. But we're supposed to be building memories with the people that we care about. So we got to remember to clock out and go home and make those memories. So as long as you got a wife, one of the things that leads to divorce is the fact that you ain't never home. Whether you cheat on her or she cheat on you, or y'all just get a divorce because y'all grew apart because you ain't never home. You got to change. You got to make sure that don't never happen. You got to always make sure that you at home. At some point, you got to come home. If you can get off early, if the boss ever says who wants to go home early today, you got to be the first person to throw your hand up so that you can run home and surprise your wife. And hopefully don't be like R. Kelly and surprise your wife and find out somebody else is in your bed. But if you go home and ain't nobody else is there but your wife, you can express to her that she was so important to you that you got off early and came straight home instead of spending that extra time hanging out with your homies and all this other stuff where you could have been at home with your wife. And if you got a career woman on your plate, you really want to work that schedule out because she's going to have to find a way to take time off to meet you, and you got to take time off to meet her in order for you to be supportive of her career while she's being supportive of your career. So y'all got to be able to find this balance. And while y'all are finding this balance, y'all can still have a long, healthy relationship and still both be career people in middle-class jobs or upper middle-class jobs, middle management jobs in middle-class companies. So Shelby says, thank you. I work and do the cooking. How do I tell my wife I want her to cook more? You don't. What you do is, let me put that question back up there. You asked me, well, how do you tell your wife you want her to cook more? You don't. What you do is you can ask her every now and again to cook something because you do most of the cooking. But there are other times where you can bring her into the kitchen and y'all cook together. So instead of it being such a big burden on you because you're the only person doing all the cooking, you can bring her in, and that actually turns into a romantic interlude. You bring her into the kitchen, you have her do some of the prep while you do some of the cooking. Y'all can turn that into a tradition. Matter of fact, on top of that, if she's not as good of a cook as you can take her into the kitchen. You can have her help you with the cooking. You can show her how to cook some of your favorite meals. And then this is what you do to get her to cook a couple of extra times out of the week, is that you can just sit there and say, man, I missed the last time that you made such and such dish. And if you went to the store and bought those groceries and they're sitting in the fridge, that's kind of the biggest clue for her to say, well, I'm going to go up in there and I'm going to make that. He liked what I made last time, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to go up in there. I'm going to make that. That's it. Because you can't give women instructions. Women don't like being told what to do. The fact of the matter is that if you want her to do something, you have to make it seem like it is a blessing if you get it from her. But you got to make sure that she knows what it is. And then when she does it, even if she does it badly, you have to greatly appreciate that. So if she burns the food, it's charcoal rich, you have to eat it, swallow it, take you some Pepto-Bismol and get back in there and go for a second plate. Because otherwise, if you hurt her feelings about the fact that she tried to cook and failed, she will never cook for you again. So you really have to make sure that you try your best to, I've gone through it enough. I've cooked for 25 years in 5-star restaurants. And I can tell you that if I'm hungry, I'm cooking with 10 pots. I got a dishwasher just because I'm tired of washing dishes. You understand? And when I cook for 10 pots, and I've had the kind of woman where she don't like her food to touch. So if I got food that's running on a plate like gravy, peas and carrots are sliding around and stuff, guess what I got? I got 10 pots of food where everything's cooked separate. Then I got 10 individual bowls for just her so that nothing touches. One plate with the main entree and another empty plate so that if she wants to mix something together, she can mix it together without mixing everything together, just so that she can't say that one thing that she doesn't want to touch, something else happened before she got a chance to eat her food. I make sure that the crunchy stuff stays away from the soggy stuff. I make sure that the gravy stays away from the dry stuff. I make sure that the cold stuff stays away from the hot stuff. All of this effort because she said one thing: I don't want my stuff to touch. Now, I got 2 loads of dishes to do. Who knocking out them dishes? Her. I put in all that effort to make sure that your food don't touch. You're going to put in all that effort to make sure that everything that you touch get clean. Team work. But at the same time, if I ask her to cook, She don't like all of her stuff to touch, but she know I don't care. So what do you think she do? She get the biggest bowl in the house, take everything and put it in that bowl and hand it to me. Because my first statement to her when we first met was, presentation don't matter to me because I'm a cook. If it tastes good, I'm gonna eat it. And the reason why she gets the biggest bowl in the house is because I eat for 5 people. So you give me a big bowl and I'm gonna come back and get seconds. So when we do this, it puts us in a position where she's giving me what I'm looking for. I'm giving her what she's looking for. But because I cook for her specifically for her, I don't cook and make enough for the both of us. I cook what she want to eat. And then I also cook some stuff that I would like to eat too. So we might not even have the same plate for dinner. And that encourages her to cook for me. Because that's another thing that'll get her to cook for you. Because if it, like, for example, if she's a vegan and you like meat, you cook meat for yourself after you cook all the vegetarian food, after you cook all the vegan food, because you cannot use no utensils that touched meat on anything that is supposed to be meatless. So you cook her food first. You serve her first. Then you go in the kitchen and cook for yourself. While she eating, the cook is cooking for himself. And then you could come down and sit down and eat with her after you done finished making what she needs, what she wants. But then she's going to feel like, well, damn, he just cooked 10 pots of food for me. And then he going to cook 2 pots of food for himself. And then he going to come and sit down and eat dinner with me. I should at least cook 1 pot of food for him. That is gratitude and reciprocation. So Shelly says, I cook, do dishes and laundry. She does cleaning. I feel like that's not enough. Well, yeah, it's not going to be enough. One of the things he says, the house is usually dirty with her stuff too. Well, so here's the thing. With me and my girl, what we would have done is if I put the stuff in the dishwasher and turn the dishwasher on, she'll take the stuff out of the dishwasher. When she takes the stuff out of the dishwasher, I put more stuff in the dishwasher. She'll wash all the pots and pans and stuff because I cooked all that stuff for her. I put stuff into the washing machine. She'll take them out of the washing machine. She'll put them in the dryer. I'll take them out of the dryer and bring them into the room. She'll fold them up, put them away, or hang them up on hangers, because most of my stuff goes on hangers because all I have are dress shirts. Teamwork. I might sweep and she'll mop, or she'll sweep and I'll mop. I might vacuum, but there's also a Shark vacuum cleaner or a Roomba that will go around the house and do most of the vacuuming for us. And then whatever that machine doesn't get, we'll get. I'll clean out that machine. One of us will take out the trash. Yes, I got the kind of woman that has no problem with taking out the trash. One of us will take out the trash. And whoever takes the trash to the can will be tag out, and the other person takes a can out to the dumpster, or not to the dumpster, but to the road for the garbage man to come and pick up, so that the garbage is out there on the side of the road. Whoever brought the cans out is not the person that brings the cans back in. Whoever brought the cans back in probably going to bring the mail in. Whoever brought the mail in is not the person that's cutting the grass. Whoever cut the grass is not the person that's washing the windows. Whoever's washing the windows is not the person that's cleaning the porch. So you have to have a little bit of teamwork. But again, if you've got a little bit of a lazy partner, you also can say that on some of the PTO days that y'all can make it you can personally make it an all-day affair for y'all to detail the house, where y'all rest a little bit, y'all watch a little Netflix, y'all watch a little bit of this and that and everything in between, and then y'all get together and y'all cook, clean, dust, mop, vacuum, cut grass, all this stuff at least twice a month. And then it's easier to keep it up because there's less stuff to do if 2 people are doing it together. He says, she says she doesn't like doing typical house duties because it's sexist. That's what most women say for a woman to clean, and she doesn't want to be in a toxic environment. Well, if she doesn't want to be in a toxic environment, then she needs to not bring toxicity. But if she doesn't want to do the household chores, then she can pay for a housekeeper. Yeah, if you guys got the money for it, she can pay for a housekeeper so that she doesn't have to do that. But you know, the irony in that housekeeper, you're going to find a Vonsuela or somebody that's going to come over there and detail your house. You can get one off of Craigslist. They got a lot of housekeepers on Craigslist. They'll come to your house and clean your whole house for $20 a room per day. So you got your 4-bedroom house, living room, kitchen. It's like $120. They'll clean the whole house. But how sexist is it for your wife to pay a woman to clean her house for her? Again, now I've had a man ask me before, well, oh, it was you. How do you control and dominate your woman? And I told you don't. You set standards. So the standards are is that the house needs to be cleaned. Now, if you give your girlfriend or your wife spending money for the frivolous things that she wants in life, she doesn't want to clean the house, that's fine. You take her spending money and you go pay for the housekeeper. Then when she asks you or demands for the money, you tell her you spent it on a housekeeper so she doesn't have to clean the house because she didn't feel like it was what a woman is supposed to do. And she is going to cut that nonsense out. And I can guarantee you that she will not have the housekeeper come and clean the house. She will clean the house so that she can get that money from you. Because you have a budget. And anything that your wife doesn't want to do comes at a cost for somebody else to be paid to do it. You got to pay to help. So if the wife does not want to micromanage, I can't do that because she controls the finances. No, she don't. You let her control the finances. Your paycheck comes to you, sir. Your paycheck is directly deposited into an account that you control, sir. So at the end of the day, okay. Now that is true. All women are budgets because you have the basic bills and then whatever the fuck she wants. So at the end of the day, if she don't want to clean stuff, you start paying for a housekeeper. She's not going to have enough money to spend on whatever it is that she wants. And before you start paying for the housekeeper, you get that sit down with her. She says that it's sexist if she does housework. You don't have enough time to do it. She doesn't feel like doing it. And she may have more time to do it than you do. That's fair. Fact is that you're going to negotiate the fact that you want a clean house. You said it yourself. And it's mostly her stuff. So what you do is you take money out of the budget and let her know, I'll factor in a housekeeper to come and clean up the house so that you don't have to do it because I don't have enough time to do it and I need help with this. So you're not saying it's her fault. You're not blaming her for the mess. You're not saying, oh, I'm going to get somebody in here to clean up all your shit. That's not what you're saying. You're saying, I need help with the housekeeping. And since you do not feel comfortable with doing it, and I do not have enough time to do it, I will pay somebody to do it for us. Problem solved. It's going to come out of her cut. And once she sees that the housekeeper is coming out of her cut, she's going to stop that housekeeper and start cleaning stuff because you're not going to live in a dirty house. Shelly says, I feel like I can't have any say because she makes more money technically. Yeah, you may not have any say with her money, but you got a plenty to say with your money. So technically, if she makes more money, then technically she can pay for her own wants and needs and desires. And technically, your percentage of the money can still go to a housekeeper. She doesn't control your paycheck. The same way a man is not supposed to tell a woman what to do with her money is the same way that a woman should not tell a man what to do with his money. Even if the situation was that a man was making 70% of the income that's going into the household, a man is not supposed to tell the woman what she's supposed to do with her 30%. So when the roles are reversed, just like we have right now, if she's making more than you, where there's 70% of the income coming from her and 30% of the income is coming from you, we're still in a position where she's not willing to do something in the house that needs to be done. You can take some of the money out of your share and put it on a housekeeper. Because if you're working 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week, and you're doing that to get a promotion, and her money is, nah, he just said, hold on, y'all. My money goes to pay all the bills. Not if she making more money than you. It's not. What the hell she doing with her money? Then you say, knocks it out almost, and I try to save a little left over. Then she gives me an allowance. And then you take that allowance, sir, and you go pay for that housekeeper. Still. But that's reckless, though. If she makes more money than you and you're paying for all the bills. Egalitarian. If you made more money than her, she would expect for you to pay for all the bills. So since she's paying, you got to pay the cost to be the boss. So if you're paying for all the bills and she's making more money than you, then 90% of her income is staying in her pocket and 99% of your income is going on the bills. She's going to give you a little bit of an allowance. Well, that allowance, sir, goes on the housekeeper because you're still not going to kill yourself to make money to take care of this family. You're not trying to chase the dragon and overwork yourself to get a promotion so that you can feel like you're on her level financially. Because truth be told, if you are the better half of her, you don't have to make twice as much as her. You don't have to make the same amount of money as her because you guys are supposed to be a partnership. So if you're going to be closest thing to a stay-at-home dad kind of situation where you're going to do a lot of the more feminine roles and she's going to do more of the masculine roles, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that the house is taken care of. If you've got more time at the house than her, you take care of the house. If she's got more time at the house than you, then she takes care of the house. She could be making 3 times more than you and make all of her money off the computer, where she's at the house 80% of the time and you're at the job 80% of the time. I would still say, even though she makes the most money, she's at the house more often. She should still make sure that the house is taken care of. So it to me, it makes no sense. He says, my allowance is $75 a week and she makes about $1,000 more than me. $75 a week is enough for a housekeeper. You said $1,000 a year. Well, that brings us back to that scenario where if she's only giving you $1,000, well, if she's making $1,000 a year more than you, so if you made like 50, 60,000 a year, she makes like 51 or 61,000 a year. It's not a lot of money. And then if she's only giving you $75 a week, that's what, $300 a month, which is more than $1,000 a year. Fair to say. Still enough to take that $75 a week and put it on a housekeeper. I was telling you, you can find them off of Craigslist between $15 and $20 a room. Some of them charge $15 to $20 an hour. Some of them charge you $25 an hour. And if you don't got that big of a house, they could tackle most of that stuff inside of $20, which means that $75 would get you 3.5 days worth of housekeeper. Matter of fact, if you put an extra $5 on top of that, $75 to get you 4 days a week worth of a housekeeper, where they can just do some of the stuff that you don't have time to do. And then all you got to do is just keep up the house on top of that. It's still not that hard to do if y'all making enough money to cover that. I mean, really and truly, where there's a will, there's a way. You just got to have the will to make a way. And you say, but she just blows all her money because it's not needed for bills. She is very supportive, though, so I'm very thankful. No. She's wasteful. That's not supportive. She's emotionally supportive, and that's fantastic. But she's financially unsupportive because if she's making more money than you and she's wasting all of her money on something else, and basically 50% of the household income is not going into the house, that's wasteful. If 100% of your, let's say you're making 50 and she's making 51, y'all are making 101 together, and you're telling me that the other 49,000 is not going into anything. You guys are never going to succeed. You realize that if you're making 55,000, you're making 65,000, and she's making 66,000. Y'all are making 127,000, roughly. I'm throwing numbers out there. They don't have to be exact. And then you think about the fact that only half of y'all's combined income needs to go on y'all standard of living. That means the other 50% of y'all money should be invested in stocks and bonds and real estate. I've been telling y'all for the past 30 days that there are REITs out there that are doing 18 to 20% returns. And you putting down 40 grand a year where you're getting back 2 grand on every 10 grand that you drop down. 40 grand a year will give you what, 8 grand? Or no, yeah, 8 grand in returns. Which, by the way, you'll be at 100 grand really quickly doing that. 2 years, you'd be at 96,000. 3 years, you'd be over 100 grand, which means that you would be making well over 20 grand a year worth of interest payments. And those interest payments, that could be her spending money. So I don't understand why. See, that kind of relationship, I'd be in a divorce real fast, because it's like, nah, I can't be doing 100% of everything on my own. And then you're going to live a life of Riley and then just throw me a handful of, but I would still take that $75 and put it on the housekeeper. But these are the kind of relationships that we end up in because we don't prioritize ourselves and validate ourselves and stand on non-negotiable expectations for behavior. Because truth be told, you've got to set a standard. There's got to be mutual contribution. Emotional support is not enough. You need help. You're telling me that you need help. I'm telling you to hire help. You're telling me that half of the income is not even going towards helping you. That's not enough. He says, but she needs money for clothes and stuff. No, she don't. I don't need new clothes and stuff. Nobody needs new clothes. Nobody needs $40,000 a year worth of new clothes. Nobody. What is she, an exotic dancer? Nobody needs new clothes on a regular basis. You might need $10,000 worth of clothes once every 5 years. And that's wasting money. Typically, you probably spend $1,000 a year or maybe less, $500 a year on the occasional new suit or the occasional new dress attire for a new event, because most of the stuff that you wear on a daily basis is a little bit more worn out and you're trying to make a first impression on a client. But more often than not, you don't need to buy $30,000, $40,000 worth of clothes every year. That's just wasteful. And I'm saying $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year because you're saying that she keeps most of her paycheck. You pay for everything. She gives you $75 a week, and that's all she gives you, and she keeps the rest of her paycheck. So if she's making $4,000 a month and she's keeping all but $300 of it every month, that makes absolutely no sense. He says, after he said about the clothes, he says, she loves me and I love her. Of course, the sex is good. Yeah, that's what that phrase means. And then he says, she is the most loyal person ever. We rent everything, by the way. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's cheaper to rent than it is to buy, because when you're renting a car, leasing a car, instead of owning the car, you don't have to worry about paying for car notes and paying for vehicle maintenance. Renting apartments is probably more fiscally responsible for the two of you than it is for you guys to buy something, since you don't have to work on the maintenance of the property. And then you also have to deal with the fact that there are issues when you're trying to divide up assets if something happens and you guys start to separate. He says, I'm trying to help her understand what it means to set us for the future. She doesn't want to listen to you. Says you don't know anything. Likes to listen to Dave Ramsey, but doesn't do what he says. Well, any woman that has heard me on this podcast, and when I start talking about the failures that women have that cause women to have the problems that they experience, are going to immediately disagree with me and log off on a podcast, because more often than not, women are in denial before women get on this podcast and say, yes, you're right. There is a couple of women that do get on this podcast and completely understand what I'm saying, and I do make it make sense on a regular basis. And I can tell you that we do have a growing viewership of women. But up until about 3 weeks ago, we had about 85 to 90% men following the podcast. And now we have about 70% men, where we have a 30% followership, because we've increased the quantity of women that watch the podcast because it makes sense. Partly also because we're also talking about business and finance. But the truth is that it's not just a man's fault that the relationship doesn't succeed. It is also the woman's fault that the relationship doesn't succeed. But women don't like to hear when a man says that a woman is part of the problem. And there's nothing that I can do about that. But I'm not going to lie to the women and tell the women that the women are not part of the problem. The reason why the women have unsuccessful relationships, the reason why the women leave 70 to 90% of the time, is partly because of their lack of effort, and partly because of their lack of contribution, and partly because of their unrealistic expectations that are unfulfillable by their partner, is the reason why they leave their relationships. But the men don't leave the relationships more often than not. About 30% of the time, the men might leave, but the men usually leave because they're tired of the way they're being treated. They're unhappy, and they probably even are in a situation where their women are either verbally or physically abusive, and the men are just tired of putting up with that. So yeah, I would expect her to not follow me and go follow somebody else, but she's not going to listen to any man that is going to give a woman advice on how to satisfy her man, because a lot of women grow up believing that they don't need a man, and then they ratify that by having a lot of male partners, and then believe that they know how to satisfy a man because they're good in bed, because of all of the bodies that they've acquired over the years, because they can't keep a man, because they throw the men away like used Nikes. And it makes absolutely no sense why they do that. And then they swear to God that they can hold down a marriage or a relationship for an extended period of time, where the only reason why that marriage or that relationship lasted as long as it did was because the man didn't leave. So truth be told, sir, I could tell you really and truly off the top of my head, and this is a man's point of view. So ladies, please chime in and disagree with me as much as you want, because I got plenty of time. I've actually got about 6 more hours before I have another engagement, because this is one of those days where I don't have work to do. So I could tell you, we got plenty of time to talk about this, but I could tell you off the cuff that if a woman is told that she's part of the problem, she's not going to want to hear that. I'm going to be man shamed for saying that. I'm going to be told that I'm insecure. I'm going to be told that there's something wrong with my childhood. I'm going to be told that some woman hurt me in my past. But truth be told, first person accountability. If I'm unhappy with my relationship, 2 parts of that is a problem. 1, I didn't articulate that to my partner, and 2, I allowed it to happen. 3 is going to be also what my partner is or is not doing that's causing me to be miserable. And 4 is going to be my partner recognizing that I'm unhappy and allowing it to stay that way. So 2 of those 4 situations I can make a change on. I can change what I allow to happen, and I can make my partner aware that I am dissatisfied. The other 2, I can't do anything about. So if I'm in a relationship where my partner knows that I'm unhappy and doesn't care, or is deliberately making me unhappy, then I have to remove myself from that relationship. But if I'm in a relationship where my partner does not know that I'm unhappy, and then when I make them aware of that, they change, that is a relationship worth having. But you cannot start the relationship with allowing things that make you unhappy to happen, and then you suppress it, you repress it, and then your depression gets projected as anger and frustration when you project it outward that you're pissed off that certain things happen that you wish wouldn't happen. You have to talk to them about these things. So I can give you little tips and tricks on how to communicate with your partner in ways to kind of navigate them in the direction that you want them to go. But really and truly, a man should just be able to walk up to a woman with a list of things that he wants to have done, and she should be able to say right away and try to get on top of that. Because if she brought him a list of things that she wanted to see happen, she would expect him to say right away and get on that. That is universal expectations. So I ain't sitting over here talking about some women should just adhere to the man's authority. I'm saying that the way that she treats her man is the way that she should be treated by her man. And if she is expecting her man to follow her instructions when she provides those instructions, she should be complacent every time a man drops instructions. Because the women can go to work and do what their boss tells them to do, but they go back to their houses and they disrespect their husbands and their boyfriends on a regular basis. Why are you paid by the hour to listen to a man, but you're not going to listen to the man that has dedicated the rest of his life to you and your success? That makes no sense to me. So Shelly says, how would you ask your wife to have more say in the finances? Oh, that is not a question. Look, I got people chiming in on the phones too. That is not a question that I am asking because I am already controlling the finances. I've got more than one business that I operate. So she is not controlling my finances. She can control her finances. But if we are going to be in this together, she has an expectation of contribution. If she wants to have a vote on stuff, she is going to have to invest in this relationship, just like investing shares in a company. And if she wants a say in certain things, she is going to have to put in more contributions. But she's going to have effort over capital. So if she wants to keep her money in her pocket, she's going to have to work for the money I'm paying into this relationship. That doesn't give her a voting share because she's contributing to the investment. You have to put in a financial share to have a voting share because you pay the cost to be the boss. So if I'm paying for 100% of everything, I will inform you of some changes. And if I'm torn between two decisions, I may ask you of your decision. But if I'm paying for 100% of everything, you don't have a say in what I'm going to do. I'm just going to update you that this is about to go down and you need to prepare for the change. But if you want to have a say in what is going on in the household, then you should financially contribute to your say. And if you want a equal say in the household, where this is a 50-50 and we might need to get a third person to break the tie kind of situation, then you need to be putting up half, if not more than half, of the cost of running this operation in order for you to have that say. So let's say our operation costs us $69,000 a year to live comfortably. Then that means you need to be putting up about $34,500, if not $35,000 out of that $69,000 to be able to have an equal share of a vote in what's about to happen with this operation. But if I'm paying for 100% of the operation and you're giving me $75 a month, you have no say because your financial investment is worth less than 5% of the voting rights, which means that majority rules. When I tell you that this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen. So how do you ask your wife for financial say in things? Well, your money has to talk for you. You have to sit down with your wife and let your wife know that since she is half of the income of this household, that you will not be contributing to 100% of the expenses, and she has control over or authority over everything that's getting done. You will withdraw 50% of your income so that she can invest 50% of her income to this endeavor. Now, that's going to give her a choice. Let all the bills not get paid, or she starts contributing. She's going to get a little bit aggressive about that, but you have to stand on your non-negotiable expectations for behavior because you cannot keep the $75 of pocket change that your wife gives you every week as money to buy food and put gas in the car and say, oh, it's fine. I'm not happy. I'm doing all the work around the house. I'm working a full-time job. She might be working a full-time job, but I'm not only working, I'm also contributing to the house. She's not contributing to the house. She's not contributing to me. I'm contributing to her because you told me about some of these things yesterday that you're putting in a lot of effort into her, but she's not putting in a lot of effort into you. And just because she makes $1,000 a year more than you doesn't mean that she should mistreat you. So even with all of this going down, I'm not going to just jump out and say, oh, you should leave your wife. Nah, I'm not going to say, because a 50-year-long marriage requires you to negotiate. But you got to really point out to her that you've got problems. And for us to be talking about those problems on a live podcast, you've got some problems that she needs to be on this live podcast talking to me about and trying to figure out why you're unhappy and she doesn't know about it. But again, as I've told you, is that if you are dissatisfied with her behavior, that you need to broadcast this to her the way I'm broadcasting it on a live podcast. Now he says, what if my wife says that I can't have a say in the budget? Should I stop paying for some of the bills? C is super OCD about paying bills, so would not let them go unpaid. So she would not let them go unpaid. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to go about handling that scenario. Because even if she has control over one of your bank accounts, I've been telling you guys all year that for $200, you don't even need $200. $5 would open up a bank account more often than not. You can open up bank accounts with credit unions. You can open up bank accounts. There's over 8,000 financial institutions in the United States, and a lot of them are fishing for customers where they're offering between 5 and 7% interest in a checking account up to $500. And you guys can open an unlimited quantity of checking accounts that will produce that 5% a year. And if you're opening credit unions, in addition to bank accounts, whenever you need special financing that you can only qualify for when you get it from a credit union, having a large quantity of credit unions under your belt helps you qualify for different type of specialty loans and different types of financing and different types of credit cards, in addition to, and different types of insurances and mortgages and stuff nowadays, in addition to being able to throw your money somewhere that's going to offer you 7% interest up to a certain quantity of money. So you can move your direct deposit from an account that she has access to an account that she doesn't have access to. And then you can wire transfer a limited quantity of money from the account that you control to an account that she controls. Then she's got to figure out the budget after that. So if she's keeping all of her money into her pocket, you know how much the bills cost because she's using your whole paycheck for it. You give her half now. And then you could take the other half and go and invest it and then let her figure out how she's going to balance the budget with 50% of your income. Since she's OCD about making sure the bills get paid, she'll figure it out because, you know, she don't have to give you the $75. You can still pay for the housekeeper. Keep half of your paycheck, give her the other half of your paycheck, and let her figure out how the bills are getting paid, which will also lead you into a position of having a little bit more control to invest into some things other than wasting the money on bullshit. Because that's really what she's doing. Is if there's no dollars left outside of those women that build escape funds in case of a divorce, if there are no dollars left, she's wasting all the money. If she's not saving it for a rainy day or an escape route, you know, you could have conversations with your wife about investing her half into stocks and bonds and stuff. But, you know, at the same time, you guys got to figure out a way to put that stuff in places where y'all will be able to both benefit from that. You guys can start up an LLC and invest your money into that LLC, and then both of y'all can share the tax deductions off of that. If you've got a partnership and you invested into the partnership, and the partnership's got the ownership of the stocks, then the partnership gets paid. Y'all can get paid as shareholders of the partnership. You're already married. That's one business contract. That's a merger right there. But you can start up an LLC, get you an LLC bank account, put all your money into that LLC bank account, upload that money to whatever stock or whatever that you've got your money controlling, and then have the dividends paid to that LLC, and then have that LLC schedule payments to pay both of you guys out in your individual bank accounts as beneficiaries of the business, and then file your taxes based on that. And you know, if you got an LLC, you get business tax credits that flows through your personal W-2. So, I mean, if you haven't been doing that, Donald Trump is in office in like 20 days. You guys should be getting yourselves some LLCs for 2025, because the taxes is going to change again for 2026 when he does that flat rate 15 and 30. So y'all should have some LLCs where y'all can get the tax deductions, because certain states are not going to be offering deductions for W-2 employees. They'll be offering deductions for LLCs and C corporations, though. So you might as well get yourself an LLC and get you a joint bank account. Make your girlfriend or your wife a partner in the company where y'all got 50-50 shares, and then you invest money into the stocks and bonds, and then y'all can divide that stuff up where y'all can get y'all some damn money back. Now, Shelly says, also, is it normal for me to have 1 million life insurance policy, but she only has 50,000? Yeah, of course. I feel like it's not kind of sketchy. Women outlive men more often than not, and she put a $1 million life insurance on you. She might only be able to afford a $50,000 life insurance on her after that. If you want a $1 million life insurance on her, you can invest in the $1 million life insurance on her, because there's no limit to the number of policies that you guys can have. In addition to that, if you were to build a trust and make the beneficiary the trust from all of y'all's life insurances combined. Whoever passes, that money will go into the trust. The trust will put that money into high interest blue chip stocks, cash stocks, where those stocks will issue dividends to the beneficiary. So if she passes, her $1 million insurance policy goes to the trust, and then that gets invested into the top 3 blue chip companies that pays quarterly. And then you will personally benefit from that every month for the rest of your life, because 3 businesses that are paying out quarterly on different months, staggering, you'll end up getting monthly revenue from them. Or you could put it into a REIT that's paying you monthly, because the Orchid is one of the ones that's paying 18.46% right now. And the shares have gone up from 7.29 to 8.56. And you can buy 800 of them. You could buy 100 of them for $856, but you can buy 1,000 of them for 8,500 something. And then you're making 18% or 18.46% on that, which means that you're bossing on that scenario. So if she's got a $1 million life insurance policy on you, that means that she's kept if you pass. If she's responsible with the money. But I mean, does it make sense that she only has 50 on herself? Well, she can't afford more than, because $1 million life insurance policy on a man is expensive. That could be upward of $800 a month, which again, I feel like is not that good, because the $1 million life insurance policy that you're paying over the course of 20, 30 years before this person passes over. Now, it's different if you get it and the relationship lasts like 6 months and then the person dies and you get the $1 million benefit from it. That's different. But when you're putting $800 a month, that's $8,000 every 10 months, and you're putting that money away every year for 30 years, every 10 years, that's $80,000. So you got to think about the fact, plus interest. You got to think about the fact that you really could be investing that money. You could be investing $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year into a high interest account, where if you passed over, you could just cash out on 10 grand and bury yourself, or have yourself buried, have yourself cremated for $2,500 and not skip a beat. But to run out there and go and get you $1 million life insurance policy, it's only beneficial to the magnitude that that's not taxable income, and you can borrow against it if you have a whole life cash insurance policy as opposed to a death benefits policy. So those are the differences. But really and truly, being married to a woman that is going to benefit from something that I do, I mean, that's my legacy that I leave behind. But I would build a trust. I would probably build 2 trusts, and I would have 1 trust that's exclusive to my wife, and I will put some shit in there for my wife, where whether we get divorced or whether I pass away, she's guaranteed to get that and only that. She's not getting anything else, that she will only exclusively receive that. And then all the rest of my assets would be guaranteed to the beneficiary of the other trust, whether it be my kids, my sisters, brothers, grandparents, whatever. They should pass before me, but whatever. That's where I would set things up. And it costs a little bit of money to make each trust, but I would do that. Making sure that if I'm going to get a prenup with my wife, then I'm going to talk to my lawyers and make sure that the lawyers contractually set up a 100 or 200 page prenuptial agreement that details all the different ways that she can get her hands onto the money on a divorce, where she is forfeiting every single right that she believes that she has for the divorce, based on the nature of her initiating the divorce, regardless of the circumstances that led to her initiating the divorce, where she gets nothing except whatever this is over here. And by contract, I am obligated to fluff that for her, so that when she walks away, she's getting something, that I'm not just going to give her a $500 bank account or a bank account with no money in it, that I'm actually going to invest something into that on a regular basis. And if the relationship fails or if I pass, that fluctuating inflation of money, that is all she will get. Everything else goes somewhere else. So if you want alimony, you better not spend all the money out of the trust. Because I mean, that's all you're getting is that trust. Now, um, there's a lot of other things that can be done there, like checks and balances and putting everything into the business and putting the business in a trust and then having that trust operated by somebody else where you don't have any ownership of it, but all of the assets are still accessible by you, where you might be a beneficiary of it. They You can redirect your funds to a different location that she doesn't have access to, so that she can't take any of your resources because you don't own anything for her to take from you. But the principle of the fact is that, like, for example, like Tom Brady, he put everything in his mama name so that when his wife left, that she didn't get anything from him. You could do stuff like that if you got a family member that you can trust, because if you put something in your parents' name, but you got power of attorney over their stuff, it's their stuff, but you can dictate what happens to it. She can't divorce you and take anything that you have power of attorney over, because you just have the authority to manipulate their stuff, but it's not your stuff. So, you got to think about that. And that's one of the reasons why drug dealers used to put the drug money into their mama name, put the house in their mama name, put the dope car in the mama name, because if the police arrest the man and take the man, they can't take mama house because mama house not involved in that. They got to prove that mama house was bought with drug money. They got to prove that mama's car was involved was bought with drug money. If they can't prove that, they can't take mama's house. They can't take mama's car. They can't take the money in the floorboards of mama's basement. So when you get out of jail, you still got a house, you still got a bunch of cars, you still got money in the basement and the floorboards. So the fact is that you protect yourself by finding somebody that you could trust, and you can put all your stuff into that person's legal control, which is the written definition of a trust. So yeah. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe as you come to the show, because we talk about this, that, and everything in between while we're on this, that, and everything in between. Because today we were talking about whether or not you be selling with your partner, or if your partner is holding you back in some way, shape, or form. And that's when we started talking to Shelly about a lot of things. So back to our main topic, where we recognize that maybe your partner is not supportive of your goals, dreams, or ambitions, and perhaps they're not willing to work through the conflicts or challenges with you, as we just finished talking about for quite a while today. We have to remember that this kind of stuff can lead an individual to feeling isolated, disconnected, and even helpless. And finally, if your partner is not respecting you, or respecting your non-negotiable expectations for behavior, dismissing your emotions, or ignoring your needs, it is clear as an indication that they might be holding you back from experiencing the true love that you desire. Now, these challenges also stem from deeper issues such as fear of vulnerability, fear of abandonment, or fear of loss. And our partners might be holding onto their own emotional baggage, making it difficult for them to connect with us on a deeper level. So perhaps they're struggling with communication barriers, or they have different life goals or values that clash with ours. Whatever the reason is, essentially, it is recognized that these challenges need to be addressed, and we need to address them head on. Now, when we're in a relationship, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement and romance, but we often forget to take a step back and assess whether our partner is truly supporting our growth and happiness. Are they encouraging us to pursue our passions, to take risks, to be the best self? Or are they holding us back, making us feel stuck, stagnant, and unfulfilled? The modern dating landscape, characterized by an abundance of options, uh, and this is going to lead to complications that we have with decision-making processes. As individuals encourage numerous potential partners, they may find themselves overwhelmed by choices, leading to indecision and a tendency to look for the perfect match rather than appreciating the qualities of a good partner. So this phenomenon can foster unrealistic expectations, like I've been telling you guys throughout the show, where individuals continuously seek out new partners in hopes of finding someone who ticks every box, ultimately resulting in a cycle of disappointment, especially when those unrealistic expectations are unattainable. Well, I appreciate you, Shelly. I got a 10-page long presentation for you guys. So it's going to be another 30 minutes of me talking to you guys on the podcast. So I appreciate you coming to the show. Make sure that you show up tomorrow, because we do have our members only show tomorrow, where we're going to be going through a lot of thank you very much. Anybody who has the opportunity and the financial capacity to show us some support with the podcast, you can always donate money to the podcast. You can always give us some special likes, special things, special emojis, some gifts, stuff to that effect, to show support for the podcast, because it does take capital to run one of these things. I can tell you that. These things are not free. So anything that you give to us is always readily appreciated. And you can also buy some stuff from the membership store, which you can actually take the advice that you get. You can remember this. There's a necklace in there that you can utilize as a gift, or a throw pillow if your girl likes to throw stuff. There's a lot of things in there. Just take a look on the YouTube channel. Yeah, I'll definitely see you tomorrow night if you have time to come back around, where we can get into some of the questions and comments that do come across the channel. I try to put them into the podcast for us to review and do reactions on. And you guys are more than free to jump in on that. You can click the link, click the mic, approve the camera, approve the mic, and then come on in real time. Or as you've been doing today, dive in on the comment section, which I strongly encourage in either situation. Either way, I really appreciate you coming to the show and spending a little bit of time with us. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Also, remember, we've got a discussion on Monday about the stimulus checks. So, you want to keep an eye out for that one. Even if you can't come on Sunday, you want to talk about the stimulus checks on Monday. So back to the main, it is crucial to recognize when it's time to reassess our relationships and prioritize our own emotional needs. And this might mean having tough conversations with our partner, as we were talking about today, where we're setting these non-negotiable expectations for behavior, or even reevaluating whether the relationship is healthy for us in the long run. Remember, you deserve to be loved, cherished, and supported in every aspect of your life, including your financial life. So if your wife or your girlfriend is walking all over you financially, you're going to have to put your foot down at some point, because you are supposed to be treated equally, the way that she would expect to have a reasonable quantity of her income that she worked for in her pocket. You should be able to have the same expectation, since we're supposed to be egalitarian these days. It's not the archaic monogamous scenario where the man is in charge of everything and the man rules everything and the woman is supposed to submit to the man. These days, women have the ability to have the authority. These days, women have the ability to have the financial dominance of the relationship, and they also have the ability to have the financial responsibilities. But in order to have those responsibilities, you have to be responsible with that. You can't become a dictator. So as they learn these things throughout their relationships, and men have to deal with this sometimes too, but as they learn this throughout their relationships, they learn how to become better partners for the next partner, hopefully. So if it doesn't work this time, it might work next time. And when your partner invests in you, when you guys invest in each other's developments, they can create an environment conducive to personal and relational growth, which is what I talk about on this podcast on a regular basis. Your financial growth in your business life versus your personal growth in your relationships and your personal life, your self fulfilling advancements, where you don't just get a promotion, you boost your own self up. And this isn't just a false sense of entitlement like what we see with the 4B movement. This is literally advancing your own personal success and then promoting yourself in your successful atmosphere. This approach encourages both individuals to evolve together, supporting each other through challenges and celebrating successes. A relationship based on mutual growth can lead to deeper emotional connections and shared achievements, enhancing the overall bond between partners. Now, a partnership thrives on collaboration and shared goals, which is one of the reasons why I say that self sufficiency is effective, but independence is not. Because self sufficiency is that you can hold yourself down until your partner or your team shows up. But independence, you would be able to sacrifice your partner or your team in order to succeed in your goals. You don't want somebody that's going to sacrifice the pack. You want somebody to hold the fort down until the pack shows up. You want somebody to show up on time so that you don't have to wait for reinforcements. But you do want to be in a relationship where you have reinforcements, where you have backup, where you have a team player, where you could be lifting a box and your partner will help you carry the box just because they have free hands, not just because the box is heavy. You shouldn't have to ask for help. If you have a real partner, your partner should recognize that you need help based on your tone of voice and your body language. So as soon as you start talking about how you're having problems, you should have a partner that should say, let me fix those problems. And if they don't do that, then you need to look them in the face and give them instructions. I need you to help me with this. I need you to help me with that. What I need is for you to help me, and then tell them what you need. So you're not telling them that they're fucking up. You're not telling them that they're slacking off. You're not telling them that they're not putting in their fair share. You're asking them to produce in these areas where failure to produce is occurring. By focusing on building up each other and allowing the partnership to cultivate a sense of teamwork, you'll be able to have both individuals feeling valued and respected. And this dynamic will foster open communication, trust, and loyalty, which are essential for navigating life's ups and downs together. As John Gottman suggested, allowing partners to influence each other's positively, having a crucial ability for maintaining a healthy relationship is key to that better relationship. But you have to remember that building up a partner requires patience and understanding. Relationships often face challenges that necessitate time and effort to overcome, where you're going to have to put in a lot of time and effort to make sure that you succeed in improving the relationship's outcome. By being supportive during difficult times, partners can strengthen their bonds and develop reliance as a couple. This support system not only benefits individual growth, but also reinforces the partnership as well. The more that you validate your partner more, the more that you need your partner. And your partner validates you more, the more that your partner needs you. The more that your partner reminds you that you are not needed here, that you are almost not wanted here, that you are just here, one step away from being a burden. The more that your partner relays that on you, the less you're going to want to be involved in this relationship. The other thing is that when we start talking about the ability to find the right partner versus finding the right partner with the certain levels of success, you have to realize that looking for the finished product can lead to unrealistic expectations about what the partner should be. And this mindset may result in disappointment when partners inevitably reveal flaws or face challenges that require growth. Such expectations can hinder the development of a healthy relationship where both individuals feel accepted for who they are rather than who they are expected to become. And that's a hard scenario to overcome, is being expected to be a specific type of person when you know that that's not you, and they knew that that wasn't you when they first met you. Now, if one partner is viewed as needing to be finished, it may create an imbalance in the relationship where one person feels superior or more competent than the other. And this dynamic can lead to resentment and frustration, ultimately undermining the partnership's foundation of equality and respect. And a relationship should be a space where both individuals contribute to each other's growth rather than one being seen as a project or an incomplete entity. In conclusion, it's essential to recognize the signs that indicate our partner might be holding us back from true love, to delve deeper into the reasons behind these challenges, and to prioritize to prioritize our own emotional growth and happiness, while it is natural to have preferences in a partner, the pursuit of an idolized version can lead to settling for less than what we genuinely find fulfilling. Recognizing the difference between settling for potential and settling with someone who complements one's life is crucial. Building a successful relationship often involves accepting imperfections while fostering an environment where both partners can thrive together. Nevertheless, building up a partner fosters an environment of growth, support, and mutual respect that is essential for the thriving relationship. In contrast, seeking out a finished product can lead to unrealistic expectations and stagnation within the partnership. Emphasizing collaboration and shared goals allows both partners to flourish individually while strengthening their bonds as a couple. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us as we drove through that very, very, very detailed presentation. And I want to make sure that you guys like and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, make sure that you follow us on a regular basis. And if you ever experience feelings of being held back in a relationship, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my other videos on personal growth and relationships. And I'll definitely be able to touch base with you guys later on in the week. So as we sign out, I want to be able to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So please, ladies, make it make sense. And fellas, I really appreciate you guys coming to the podcast. You guys make us who we are today. Special shout out to Red Void, Omni81, Liberty Twitcher, Silly Emma for coming to the podcast from Twitch. AJ and Mr. Pibbs for popping in on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter. We also have a quite large of a laundry list outside of Max Poser and Martinez, Reese Martinez, for showing us even more support throughout the last month or so. We really appreciate you guys coming to the podcast, and special shout outs to all of the countries around the world as you see them scrolling all across this list that we have of all of the countries that have been showing us support on the podcast for the longest period of time. We really appreciate you guys because you guys also contribute to our success. We actually have about 50% of our population coming from Russia right now, which is very, very interesting, but I respect it. Either way, I appreciate you guys coming to the show tonight. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night for our members only show, as I explained earlier today. I'm your host, Xander, for This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I hope you guys enjoy our closing song, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.